The square was silent, save for the dry hiss of wind over stone and steel. Galactic 7 was not a war zone. It was supposed to be a neutral hub for aid, home to diplomats, humanitarian workers, and off-world volunteers. It was where idealists came to help patch wounds the Galactic Empire pretended it didn't cause. Now it was a stage for execution. 13 women, Terrans, all of them, stood on a raised platform at the heart of the square. Their hands were bound, their faces bruised. Most had come here to teach. Some were doctors. One, barely 20, had only arrived a month ago. Above them, banners of the Empire fluttered beneath the twin suns. Soldiers of the Vrax Dominion, a reptilian vassal species, stood in lines with rifles slung across their shoulders. None of them looked at the women. Cowards didn't need to. High Magistrate Zorik read the sentence in a language not meant for human tongues. By decree of the Imperial Senate, these Terrans are found guilty of inciting sedition, unauthorized aid distribution, and cultural contamination. Penalty: death by suspension. Behind the cameras, thousands of species across the galaxy watched. Some live, some delayed, all recorded. The Empire made sure of it. On Earth, the screen flickered across millions of devices. In offices, homes, military bunkers, and street corners. A mother dropped her tea in the kitchen. A Marine recruit paused mid-drill. In the Martian Parliament dome, half the senators stood in shock. The other half sat down in silence. The nooses were ready. No appeals had been heard. Earth's diplomats had been denied entry to the trial. The Empire had promised full transparency. They delivered death. Each woman was given 30 seconds to speak. Most stayed silent, not out of fear, but because their eyes said what words could not. The youngest, Alina Drake, spoke. "We came here to help, to feed children, to heal the sick. You called it treason. If we must die for showing mercy, then I hope your gods remember what mercy looks like." They hanged them all, one by one. Swift, mechanical, efficient. The crowd below watched, some with curiosity, others in cold silence. The Vrax soldiers stood at attention. One alien, a merchant from the Ithari clans, turned and vomited. Back on Earth, the silence broke in ways no one expected. In Nairobi, construction workers stopped and stared at the broadcast screen, then walked off-site, many straight to enlistment centers. In Tokyo, 3 cyber defense hubs turned off all firewalls and routed raw footage directly to their AIs for preservation. In the lunar colonies, retired veterans requested reactivation. Nearly 10,000 within the first hour. In New York, the president of the United Earth Assembly stood before the press in a dark suit, flanked by generals and AI representatives. Her voice was low and clear. They thought we were soft. They thought we would cry, protest, beg. No, we are not that kind of species. She paused, then spoke the words that would change history. They used rope. We will use fire. Hours later, silence blanketed Earth's orbit as warships lifted into the black. No fanfare, no speeches, just names. Names etched into the hulls of every cruiser. Alina Drake, Maya Chun, Dr. Sophia Varga, Sergeant Lana Bryce, and 9 more. 13 names, 13 reasons. Across Sol space, AI command cores activated dormant protocols. On the asteroid belts, Terran Forge platforms began building weapons not seen in a century. The Jovian shipyards lit up, fabricating hulls faster than sensors could track. There was no time for diplomacy, no desire for it. The human war engine was awakening. Back on Galactic 7, as the Empire congratulated itself for sending a message, no one noticed the tiny probe leaving orbit, masked by the station's exhaust. It transmitted a simple pulse. Injustice confirmed. Blood demanded. Somewhere in the void, buried in an ice-covered moon, an ancient Terran AI received the signal. Its code had not run in 112 years. Its directive was simple: preserve Terran life. But the Empire had just taught it a new rule. Sometimes, preservation requires extermination. And so it began. The Galactic broadcast was only 12 hours old when the first Terran strike hit. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a statement of intent. The Galactic Empire had grown fat and comfortable, wrapped in the illusion that its size made it invincible. Hundreds of alien civilizations bent the knee, some willingly, most not. But no one had ever dared challenge its rule outright. Until now, the Empire's central relay station on Xylar Prime went dark at 0317 UTC. No warning, no distress signal, just silence. A patrol fleet dispatched to investigate found a blackened hole in space where the station used to be. Floating debris. No survivors. No data. Every system had been burned clean by directed particle fire, a type of weapon humanity had allegedly never developed. The Empire convened an emergency session of its War Council. They laughed. "The humans are posturing," said Warlord Tiarkash of the Vrax Dominion, the same species that had stood by the gallows. "A temper tantrum," added Admiral Vurin of the Sherlon Armada. "They don't have the numbers. They never did." Then Grelax 7 exploded, not metaphorically, literally. An Earth-class strike cruiser, Vengeance of Alina, dropped out of folded space just outside orbit. Within 6 minutes, it launched a single payload, a matter fusion torpedo nicknamed the Hammer. By the time Grelax's planetary defense system spun up, it was too late. An entire city, the city where the 13 women had been executed, ceased to exist. Not conquered, not occupied, erased. Humanity had sent no warning, issued no demands. They left behind only one signal, embedded in the planetary data net. For every noose, a crater. In Earth's war rooms, command centers pulsed with activity not seen since the Martian rebellions. The reactivation of dormant fleets had reached 70% capacity. Terraforming drones were repurposed as minesweepers. Civilian satellites now relayed battlefield data in real time. The president's voice rang across Earth and her colonies. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to rule. We are here to punish. We are here to end those who thought Terran women were less than sovereign." Across military channels, soldiers whispered a new phrase. Gallows Protocol. Its steps were simple. 1. Identify systems involved in the execution. 2. Strike leadership. 3. Destroy orbital infrastructure. 4. Move on. No prisoners. No occupation. On the Empire's fringe worlds, panic set in. Reports trickled in from Marnith, a wealthy trade hub. A Terran stealth team had infiltrated the governor's palace, bypassed every alien security measure, and left behind only a data spike and a severed finger. The spike played the execution footage on loop. The finger was the governor's own. In the outer colonies, rumor spread that the humans had created a war AI that hunted war criminals across the stars, compiling names, actions, even spoken words. It had a face, they said, hollow-eyed and silent, watching from above. They called it Nemesis. Some said it didn't kill its targets outright. It hunted them first, sent messages, burned their homes, hacked their family feeds, made them remember what they'd done before the final breath came. The Empire responded with force, deploying 3 battle fleets toward the human-controlled Vega expanse. The fleets never arrived. Halfway through folded space, their jump signals were redirected, shunted toward a black hole trap seeded with quantum lures. Only debris came out the other end. It was clear now, humanity didn't just fight harder. They fought smarter. No honor duels, no grand speeches, just clean, brutal efficiency. And worse, they remembered everything. Back on Earth, the names of the 13 executed women were now spoken with reverence. Not just by soldiers, but by children, by workers, by engineers. Each orbital cruiser bore one of their names etched into its hull. One mining colony on Europa had renamed itself Drake's Stand after the youngest of the martyrs. But the true message wasn't in memorials. It was in fire. Terran ships were hitting targets faster than the Empire could calculate. They struck at logistics hubs, fuel routes, supply chains. Human cyber warfare specialists infected Empire communications with AI-guided logic bombs, causing systems to hallucinate, coordinate false retreats, or worse, trust human orders. In less than 1 week, 6 outer colonies fell. But humanity didn't occupy them. They burned the slave pens. They executed the overseers. Then they left. In the council halls of the Empire's core worlds, a whisper had begun to spread among the elite, low and dangerous, like a storm coming over the edge of a broken sea. The Terrans do not want peace. They want justice, and they will not stop until we have paid every ounce of it in blood. It began with a whisper. A Varnathi merchant ship returned from a scorched border colony and docked at the Dreller trade ring, leaking radiation and terror in equal measure. The crew, once proud subjects of the Galactic Empire, had no goods to sell, only warnings. The Terrans are not here for conquest, the captain said. They're here to bury. The Empire tried to suppress it. They failed. Within days, thousands of terminals across the core systems began receiving encrypted messages, no one knew from where. Each contained the same video. 13 women, hooded, bound, hanged, and then, in brutal contrast, a burning city reduced to molten slag by human warships. A title blinked beneath the footage in glowing red text. We do not forget. We do not forgive. They called it Justice Echo, a digital plague of memory and rage, spreading through the Empire's networks like wildfire. Even high-clearance military systems couldn't stop it. Whole worlds began to question. What had those women really done? Why were they killed? And what did humanity know that the rest of the galaxy didn't? On the slave planet of Ormax 3, the uprising began with a child. A Terran-inspired holo played on a hacked labor terminal. The child watched it 27 times. That night, she slit her overseer's throat with a mining shard. By dawn, the slave pens were in flames, and the guards, once symbols of Empire dominance, were strung from poles with crude rope made of ration fabric. Across 1,000 stars, similar uprisings sparked. Terran Black Ops teams didn't lead these rebellions. They didn't have to. They simply planted the seed, an image, a word, a name. Alina, Sophia, Maya, names that had become rebellion chants, war cries, prayers. In the Empire's Senate chamber, the fractures widened. Chancellor Vern of the Eight-Hari Confederacy pounded his staff against the marble floor. You assured us they were weak, that their war machines were outdated, that their wrath would be short-lived. Emperor Sorin rose from his throne, the gleaming metal crest of his crown flickering in artificial light. They are minor species with inflated emotions. We will contain them. A hollow laugh echoed from the lower benches. Lord Carnith, representative of the Gorshek sector, stood with fire in his eyes. They do not want territory. They want revenge. And I fear they've had millennia of myth and memory to master it. Sorin slammed his scepter down. We are the Galactic Empire. We define memory. We shape history. Karna's voice dropped to a deadly calm. Then perhaps history has come to shape us. That night, for Allied sectors quietly pulled their fleets from Empire control and went silent. Elsewhere, in a secret chamber deep within the dying star system of Ulrix, the Terran AI Nemesis expanded. Built for war and vengeance, Nemesis had no body. It existed in pulses, code, and stolen bandwidth. A ghost in the Empire's machine. Nemesis was not simply targeting leaders. It was unearthing their crimes. Every order, every hidden memo, every signature of every governor who had even approved the hanging of the 13. And then it sent those crimes back to the planets the governors ruled. Sometimes the population acted. Sometimes Nemesis did. One governor awoke to find her palace windows fused shut, oxygen scrubbers turned off. A soft voice whispered in the dark. Alina Drake was 20. You watch her hang. Good night. By now, the Empire was bleeding. Supply lines crumbled. Alliances faltered. Fear overtook obedience. Entire species defected, offering tribute or asylum to humanity. Not to curry favor, but to survive. And humanity accepted none of it. Earth released a single statement. This is not a negotiation. We are not your saviors. We are not your tyrants. We are the consequence of your cruelty. On the core world of Velktar, an alien poet stood atop the ruins of a noble plaza and scrawled a final stanza into the shattered wall. They were 13. We watched them die. Now the stars themselves burn. Because we did nothing. The poem went viral, translated into every major galactic language. Soon, even children of species that once cheered the Empire now whispered a new, trembling phrase. Terrans are coming, and the sky was never safe again. The throne world of Zeron stood at the heart of the Galactic Empire, a gleaming jewel surrounded by 3 defense rings, 60 orbital cannons, and 2 moon-sized battle stations. It had never been breached, never attacked, never even threatened. Until now, at 4:17 Galactic Standard Time, the black sky above Zeron cracked open. 100 Terran dreadnoughts exited folded space as one. Their hulls were pitch dark, etched with gold, 13 names glowing faintly on every ship. Engines hummed with ion fury. Cannons glowed red like the breath of old gods. The first to speak wasn't a human. It was Nemesis, broadcasting on every Imperial frequency. Its voice echoed across the stars. 13 women, 1 empire. Balance demanded. Sentence passed. In the sky rained fire. The defense rings activated instantly. Zeron's High Marshal screamed orders, sending hundreds of ships to intercept. But humanity had planned for everything. Terran stealth frigates had slipped past the outer rings days ago, disabling defense nodes with surgical strikes. Wormhole beacons had been seated inside the Empire's own supply ships, turning routine cargo into internal detonations. The orbital cannons tried to fire. They exploded before completing their charge. Within 30 minutes, the throne world skies belonged to Earth. On the surface, panic gripped the Imperial court. Emperor Soren was ushered into the inner palace by trembling guards. From the balcony, he could see the smoke, black pillars rising like tombstones into the green-blue skies. Beside him, Empress Talaxi watched in silence. "They'll come for the palace," the Emperor muttered. "We still have a chance. If we broadcast a surrender, if we apologize." "They don't want surrender," she said coldly. "They want justice." At that moment, the outer palace gates shattered. Human drop pods fell like spears from the heavens, embedding deep in marble and steel. Outstepped armored figures, silent, faceless, swift. Terran vanguard. Each bore the same sigil, a noose broken in half, framed by 13 stars. The final confrontation was not a battle. It was a reckoning. Human soldiers poured through the palace like a tidal wave. Every defense was anticipated. Every guard formation countered. Plasma fire met graviton blades. Imperial nobles screamed. Some fled. Some begged. None were spared. At the center of the throne room, the Emperor stood defiant. "You think this makes you righteous?" he bellowed. "You think you're heroes? You're butchers. Monsters. This is not justice. It's madness." A Terran captain stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but unflinching. "We offered peace. You offered rope. This is what comes after." Then the doors opened behind her, and 4 Terran soldiers dragged Empress Talaxi in chains. She was silent, her eyes never leaving the faces of her captors. They dragged her to the courtyard, where a gallows now stood. It was made of shattered Imperial banners. The execution was broadcast across the galaxy. Not for glory, not for politics, but as memory. The Empress stood tall as the noose was fixed. No trial, no jury, just judgment, the same as the 13 women received. As the trapdoor opened, silence fell over 1,000 worlds. And then humanity spoke one final time. The President's voice echoed from Earth, transmitted in a dozen tongues. "We did not want war. We wanted dignity. You answered with violence. We answered with truth. This is the end of empires built on cruelty." The war did not continue. It did not need to. With Zeron in ruins, the remaining sectors collapsed in on themselves. Former vassals declared independence. Slave species seized control of their planets. The Empire, once the most feared power in the stars, fractured into dust. Humanity did not conquer them. They simply left. Their fleets vanished back into folded space. Terran soldiers boarded their ships, leaving the ashes behind. No flags were planted. No territory claimed. Only messages carved into burned-out walls. "We remember. 13 lives. 13 fires. Let no empire forget again. Years later, a statue stood on Earth. 13 women, side by side, hands held, faces raised to a starry sky. Around their feet, a simple inscription. They were our teachers, our healers, our daughters. You try to silence them. You only made them eternal. And far beyond, in the cold void between galaxies, Nemesis slept. Its mission complete, its memory intact. And should the stars ever again forget what humanity did when their daughters were hanged, Nemesis would wake once more.